Hello, I'm Brian Humphreys, Director of Communications for Autonomous Systems and Advanced Programs at Northrop Grumman. With me today is Jane Bishop, Sector Vice President of Autonomous Systems for Northrop Grumman. In 2020, much like many conferences, the UAS Summit has turned into a virtual affair, and Northrop Grumman is pleased to have been asked to provide some content. Jane, I'd like to start things off by asking you a little bit about the broader context of some of the unmanned work that is happening in North Dakota. And so I really want to go up to the higher level for the National Defence Strategies, the 2018 National Defence Strategy. How has that strategy affected the way the Department of Defence views autonomous systems?
So in reviewing the National Defense Strategy, our prior focus had really been on more counterterrorism activities, where now we're seeing a pivot to go more towards that peer-to-peer conflict. And what does that really mean, and how does that play into our thoughts regarding autonomous systems performance? And I think one of the key areas that really comes into play there is the need to really, what we're seeing our adversaries do is continuing to increase that pace with which they're developing capability. So how do you counter that increased pace of advancement of technology? And it's certainly a very big concern area for us. It's an area where we've enjoyed a certain amount of dominance, I will say, over the last 20 years. So what we are understanding now is that we really need to be able to deliver affordable capability at a more rapid pace. And I think one area where we can really improve and set ourselves apart is in the area of autonomous systems. And when I talk about autonomous systems and the types of capabilities where we really need to deliver, we really need to put a lot of emphasis on the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning, so that with these exquisite sensors that we have today, that we can process that information more rapidly and really deliver tactical decision aids to our ultimate warfighter.
So we're virtually in North Dakota, and many of us physically in North Dakota. But I want to talk a little bit about the North Dakota Unmanned Aerial Systems wider ecosystem. How does that support both national and international security?
So of late, I've been learning an awful lot about North Dakota. I had never been there before, and just in the last 2 months, I've had 2 visits already to that very important state, in the autonomy ecosystem, as you had pointed out. And why is that? So certainly Grand Forks is the home for Grand Forks Air Force Base, which is home of the Global Hawk. And most recently, I had an opportunity to visit with the wing commanders there. So certainly there's a great strategic reasons for Northrop Grumman to have a significant presence so close to where our Global Hawk platforms are being operated from. North Dakota is also home to the Northern Plains UAS test facility, and that certainly that site presents a great opportunity to integrate within national airspace. So that's something that we've also been learning a lot about, and had some really great experiences recently on our Firebird program, working in concert with that facility. And it's not just about the industry that's in the area or the government entities that are in the area, but there's also some really great talent in that area, and we've been leveraging that talent coming from a lot of the local universities as well as local colleges, and we're finding those folks to be, not just demonstrating great skill, in bringing their software development learning to the table and helping us to apply that to the autonomous work that they're doing in that region, but we're just seeing a great culture, and these folks come in. They're anxious to learn, they're anxious to lead, and they've been anxious to contribute, and they've really been able to do that very well at our new Grand Sky facility right there in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
When you talked about the National Defence Strategy, you talked about the shift from counterterrorism to a great power conflict or potential great power conflict. I want to talk for a moment about high altitude, long endurance UAS. Those aircraft aren't typically designed for highly contested environments. You have stealthy manned and unmanned systems that are designed for that. But do these high altitude, long endurance unmanned aerial systems have a role in great power conflicts and in particular in highly contested environments?
So certainly the stealthy platforms are going to play a very important role in the contested environments. But I will say recently the CSBA has most recently coined this new operating model that they referred to as deterrence through detection. And I see that as very applicable for today's HAIL platforms, where we're up there, we're flying well above commercial traffic, we're providing wide areas of surveillance, we're doing it for long periods of time, we're doing it without men or women on those platforms, really keeping our folks safe. And it's through this deterrence versus detection operating model that I think we really add a lot of value. And I say that because, if you think about it, we're up there, we're covering wide areas, we're covering whole continents, in a single mission. We're keeping an eye on our adversaries. We're monitoring their training. We're watching the borders. And when they know that we're watching, all of that, I think it helps to keep things in check, from an adversary monitoring perspective.
So the United States, Australia, Japan, Korea, NATO, all of those have invested in one form or another in high altitude, long endurance UAS. HAIL UAS, so what role do they play in the national security for those countries?
Yeah, and another interesting aspect of the national defense strategy is really the fact that we see our adversaries taking the fight to all domains. And when we think about how do you counter that, it's really important that we have a joint fighting force there. So we're really working jointly across all of those domains, and you can look at that within certainly just the United States and what we need to do to preserve national security. But we think what we see is that we are going to really need to develop stronger partnerships with our allies and perhaps even new allies to continue to provide that web of what I'll refer to as, as situational awareness, with our HAIL platforms. And we've really been able to do that effectively, with the partnerships that we've recently enjoyed with South Korea, with NATO, with Japan, and with our newest relationship now with Australia. So we really see, we're excited about our ability to proliferate this capability, not just within the United States interests around the globe, but really, around the world.
Talking about contested battle space a little bit more in some detail, can you talk a little bit more about how autonomous systems in general will play an increased role in controlling contested battle space?
The survivability in a contested environment is certainly very important, and some of the things that we at Northrop Grumman are bringing to the table there is, the Air Force recent concerns raised about the MQ-9. We're working MQ Next there. When you think about, when you have a platform or that perhaps, stealth isn't the answer, but you can attack in mass, really. So it's through an attritable force, something similar to Skyborg, our most recent Skyborg initiative, I think are a couple of angles where we, Northrop Grumman, see ourselves participating, in platforms that can become the next generation, within this highly contested environment. But you think about operating in a highly contested environment, one of the things that comes first and foremost, certainly in my mind is, and especially when we're talking about manned platforms, is the ability to control those platforms, in an area where communications may not be consistent. So one of the areas that we've been investing in at Northrop Grumman is a system that we call DARC, and we refer to that acronym. That acronym stands for Distributed Autonomy Responsive Control. And what we're trying to do there really is leverage, our heritage in battle management, command and control, where we have really a rich history, in that type of capability, and now really taking that capability to the next level, helping, our weapon system operators with the vast amounts of information that's being thrown on them, with helping them with tactical decision aids, providing a great partnership between the human and the machine, and developing these autonomous tactical decision aids that really help take the human out of the loop, and result in a more effective, situational awareness, a more effective, fighting system, really.
Why is North Dakota so critical in supporting Northrop Grumman's future autonomous systems operations?
So earlier in the interview, we talked about the strong autonomous ecosystem that we have found in North Dakota, from Grand Forks Air Force Base to the Northern Plains UAS test facility to just the local, colleges and universities there, and the great talent that we have found there. Those all sparked our investment in our Grand Sky facility there. So what we have built is a facility with 35,000 square feet of hangar space and about the same amount of office space. And the type of work that we are focusing on there is aircraft operation, it's mission engineering, it's integrated logistics, and it's software sustainment. And we have all different elements of that type of work going on at that facility today. So I was really excited to go visit that facility for the first time back in August. And the purpose of that visit was to participate in a Firebird demonstration that we hosted from there. So Firebird is one of our newer platforms. It's been in work for quite some time now. It's an optionally manned, optionally unmanned, vehicle that employs open system architecture, so we can really swap payloads in and out quite seamlessly. We can swap from the manned to an unmanned configurations quite seamlessly. And as a matter of fact, during this demonstration, we were actually able to take an aircraft and swap configurations, in under 2 hours, to really put the proof in the pudding with what we said we can do from that capability perspective. So, it was a great opportunity to showcase this great new platform that we're really excited about. It was a great opportunity, and I will say it was very challenging, to do that in the COVID environment. So I'm really proud of the job that the team had done in making sure that we executed that safely. We were able to bring in some visitors, some potential customers, some local dignitaries, some from local universities, and others that we felt might be interested in this fantastic new capability. And for those that couldn't be there, we were able to stream live data, real time, through Zoom. So really our teams are really becoming more and more innovative, not just in developing capability, but in figuring out ways to, effectively conduct, such important demonstrations like that Firebird demonstration that we just recently completed. And if you bear with me, I'd like to read some of the firsts that we achieved during that demonstration. So that was the first Northrop Grumman UAS flights out of Grand Sky, so we're certainly very proud of that. It was the first Northrop Grumman ground-based sense and avoid operation, so another accomplishment we're very proud of. It was the first Northrop Grumman UAS in national airspace, as opposed to restricted airspace, so another fantastic accomplishment for that team. And we also accomplished first Firebird UAV night operations, 36 hours of flight operations over a 38-hour period. So really, really proud of all the accomplishments, of the team there, and that certainly plays a big part in why Northrop Grumman is so interested in and finds North Dakota to be so important in this autonomy ecosystem.
So just wrapping up our UAS Summit conversation, Dr. Will Roper, Assistant Secretary for Acquisition for the US Air Force, recently said that, I think, and I'll paraphrase him a little bit, the digital world will be where future wars are won and lost. How is Northrop Grumman approaching digital transformation and its in its development of autonomous systems?
So the digital transformation certainly is an important one, and we've been biting that off, I think, in little bits and pieces. But the digital transformation really applies to an entire product life cycle. So, in my past life, I've been involved with the move from 2D to 3D, models and the way we designed our air vehicles, and taking the next step and being able to then build from those, air vehicle models is one thing. The agile software transformation has certainly been on the forefront of a lot of the areas that we're focused on here within autonomous systems. And I think that's evident in our ability to not just wait for block upgrades, but to be able to deliver capability, incrementally. But then also, the importance of having systems with open architecture, systems where we're able to incorporate new payloads rapidly, so that it doesn't take years to deliver new capability. And that goes back to that Firebird example that I had just shared with you from our most recent Firebird demonstration at Grand Sky.
Yeah, and Dr. Roper also said in the context of digital transformation, he said that speed was the new most important metric, and so your Firebird example is spot on there. So thank you very much, Jane, and thank you to the UAS Summit. Northrop Grumman is pleased to partner with the UAS Summit, pleased to be a part of the North Dakota community, and pleased to be part of the broader autonomous systems community. So thank you very much for your time today.